I wonder if you could just have a memory, a favorite story of Eddie Guerrero.
Oh, Eddie was the best, man. Eddie made me feel like a part of the locker room when most of the locker room didn't know how to make somebody feel that way. Now, what I mean is a pro wrestling locker room can come off as extremely cliquish, especially when you're
Right.
one of the new guys. And so, for the longest time, 2004 into 2005, I really felt like I was still trying to learn my way because I entered that company extremely naive. You go there with the mindset that, oh, everyone's working for the best company ever. We're all working in pro wrestling heaven. Everyone should be happy and working together, and everyone's just, arm in arms, that we're all up here together. And I couldn't have been farther from the truth. I mean, what a horribly naive mindset to enter with, but I was a positive kid, optimistic kid. So the company will do what it can to crush that really fast. But Eddie was always that guy who made sure that I stayed, fairly inflated and didn't get too discouraged. I remember specifically one time when I had the Cruiserweight Championship, I was extremely frustrated because I felt that the title was directionless. It really was. It always was, actually. And, I went up to Eddie and I said, listen, I don't know how to go about this, but I want to approach Vince with this idea of, and it wasn't the most original idea, but it would have brought a little attention to the division. But basically what I wanted to do was take the title, do the old, throw it in the garbage and burn it kind of thing. The title doesn't mean anything. I don't know why I'm carrying around this 15 pounds of leather and metal, and it doesn't matter, like blah, blah, blah. And reintroduce a new title that was based on style. It was kind of a rip-off of the the idea of it being style-based as opposed to size-based. But that's what I had to do because Vince is adamant in not using small guys. I just feel that's how he always is, And so I went to Eddie and he said, well, the guy signs your checks, doesn't he? I said, well, I think it's a photocopy, but yeah, it looks like his signature. And he goes, well, then you have just as much of a right than I do or anybody else to go in there and talk to the man. And he just fired me up in like 2 minutes. I was like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. So I charged in there, and he wasn't working or anything, but Eddie just believed in me. He believed in me when I felt that most in that whole environment either believed in me and didn't like what they believed in because they felt that I was a threat, or they just didn't bother because I wasn't gassed up and shredded, or kissing ass. So I think it was easy to overlook me from the office from a personnel standpoint, not from a talent standpoint. From a talent standpoint, I think it's, hey, we need to keep an eye on this one. It's walking on its own. You know what I mean? This one doesn't need strings or puppeteering. This one's walking on its own. Hey, let's flag this one and keep an eye on that one. So as I charged into Vince's office, not like, bullheaded or anything. I went in there, excuse me, sir, I'd like to renew your time. Basically laid out the whole idea. He just looked at me cross-eyed and he was like, I hate it. Well, what do you want? You want to change something? He goes, well, it's not the division, the belt isn't the problem, the title isn't the problem, it's you guys. You guys are also vanilla. And da-da-da-da-da. And it was just, okay. I'll try again some other day.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for listening or pretending to. But it was just, that was Eddie though. Eddie believed in you. If you have heart and if you had a passion for wrestling, he knew it. He could see it. And it's how I am now. I can tell if you have the passion and if you were raised really loving this. If you grew up loving this, I'll know it. If you grew up and you got into this because you wanted to be famous, you wanted to be on TMZ or some bullshit, and you wanted to do in your head think you were going to be rich, I'll know that too. I'll spot that in you. Anyone who's brought up seemingly in an old school fashion, and I like to think that I was because I was brought in by an old timer who just beat the tar out of me and Ivan Putski. I like to think that when you're brought in by an old timer, you're brought in with a certain level of respect, a high level of respect, but it's very specific. And when you meet someone who possibly came in, with ulterior motives or, something else on the brain, you'll see that. Whereas if they come in wholehearted, pure because they love wrestling, you'll see that too. And that was Eddie, you know, and he saw that in me. And that's why, you know, I always gravitated towards him, whether it was for advice, mostly for advice, because I was always yanking my hair out. But I miss him. I miss Eddie so much. The business doesn't have enough Eddie Guerreros, and it never will have another one. But to have good people, that's what the wrestling business highly lacks. It's just good, genuine people, you know. So
it's hard to believe it's been 8 years since he's passed. It's just
I saw that on the Twitter feed the other day. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it's been 8 years. I was in Minneapolis. I can't believe it's 8 years. You know, it's just, you don't think about these things. You know, we take so much for granted. I remember being in Minneapolis when it happened, and I was with Gory, and I met up with Mysterio and Jindrak. And the second I met up with Ray was just crushed. He was in tears. I said, Ray, are you okay? What's wrong, buddy? What's wrong? And he said, we lost Eddie. We lost Eddie. And me being an idiot, I was like, well, where'd he go? You know what I mean? Did he leave? You know, like it didn't register that this person's life would actually end. You know, and he said, no, man, we lost him. And, God, it was heavy. That was just so heavy. You know, like Minneapolis isn't cold enough, you know. So, yeah, I miss him. I miss Chris, too.